Alright, here we are at the end of turn 12 in Baltic Gap. Extremely successful turn for the Russians, so we'll go over why that was so and take a look at the situation from both sides to this point. We'll start down here in the Pskov front area, more the Ostrov front. We recently had a battle, well, on this turn we had a battle here for Ostrov. Some out of supply, DG'd units bravely trying to defend Ostrov had held on for a few turns, but were finally knocked out of their defensive positions there by the masses of Russian troops around them here. Key crossroad there for the Russian player. Can start to bring some of these accumulated forces into other areas of the map through this main road, and which leads all the way over here, frees us up to go to the west with those forces where they're probably needed more than they are here. As you can see, the terrain here is less than ideal. Not a lot of way to get supply through. That's very much benefiting the Germans, who are trying to thin their forces here and pull back and support threatened Riga. We'll get to that shortly. But yes, terrain and supply are doing just as good of a job as these infantry units along the front lines here, as in holding these positions for the Germans. It's difficult to decide what to do here as well, though. Wanting to hold on as long as possible, but really wishing these infantry were on other parts of the map for the Germans. But extremely important to defend these Estonian victory points. Very high value. We've got 2 there, 4 here, 2 there, another one there. Oh, that's not in Estonia, that's in Latvia. But as you can see, in a balanced game that we have so far, the victory point's now sitting at 0 after this turn, so a tie game, about to swing to the Russians, I believe. Cannot afford to just pull back from here, so it's been a stalemate to this point, and that benefits well for the Germans, even though they are being held down quite a large number of forces relatively here in the north. Alright, we'll move along the line here. Just west of Ostrov, southwest. Again, terrain, not making it easy. Germans just some screening forces here to block off any adventurous Soviet troops. Bit of a riverline defense here. Russians' supply is not overextended, but certainly would have trouble pushing through here without converting some of these rail lines, which we can start doing. So Germans just trying to hold on and limit any sort of adventures by the Russians across this river line here at the moment. I believe that might be our new line of defense, but not for long, I don't think. Again, I'm not really sure where this is going to go. Totally at a loss. It's such open terrain past this river here. If I can find something with the Russians to make supply work beyond this river line, then I can make things very nasty for the German player. I keep saying that, but I'm playing both sides for the German forces. Yeah, okay, nothing really exciting though. It's pretty straightforward. Just a few units sitting in the back lines here. Undefended artillery. So the headquarters, I do believe, is defended. Some Latvian headquarters trying to bail. German headquarters setting up a new area to build from and hopefully prevent any surprises here. Trying to use these extra German headquarters somewhat effectively and build up those secondary areas of supply should something bad happen in the actual front lines and closer to the front type thing. So, alright, the very exciting part, I would say, is to Daugavpils, which finally has fallen. Took quite a bit of supply to do so. Managed to kill 4 steps, which is all it was defending, and got that good die roll, got a surprise killed the forceps defending Daugavpils, with no loss at all actually to the Soviet forces there. Another key crossroad. So like I said about Ostrov being opening up this roadway here really opened up the Russian options, and then Daugavpils is an even more key crossroad. Not just roads but rail as well. We can start converting the railhead, which I believe is under that stack there. Start using that rail to push our advance forward, and start converting some of this rail line here as well, which is really what we need to get the forces in the west really driving. This is going to continue to be a bit of a slugfest, picking away at bits and pieces of these German forces in full retreat at the moment. Full retreat, but trying to maintain some level of solidity, which is not easy. Again, thankfully supply, well actually no supply here and terrain aren't as helpful. So kind of covering off what we can with limited screening forces and trying to pull back in some amount of force to Riga, which is heavily threatened. It's a tough balancing act of trying to get troops there and not just turning tail and running here. I don't know if what I've built here is of any value, and this is quite a lot of force challenging it, and quite a lot of supply actually. We've been very patient for the most part here as the Russians, using maneuver more so than brute force to push the Germans back. So very successful in that, and glad we could make use of the terrain for that purpose to get to this point. Just look at the artillery gathered around Daugavpils here. Can now be freed up for more important things. What the hell I'm going to do with all that, I have no clue. So we'll see. But it certainly looks frightening. Alright, well, I guess we can take a look towards Riga and towards the west here. As you can see here, we've got the Germans and Russians kind of staring each other down, and neither side either able or unwilling to commit. The Russians content to hold this river line here to defend against any adventures by the Germans towards our rear areas. A little bit sloppy in this area here as we just captured this pop point on this turn. Just barely managed to capture it. Supply here is dangerously low, very, very low, and we're at the extent of our trace supply at the moment as well. Managed to scrounge some supply to get these formations moving again. Was able to surround a unit and force it to retreat. Again, same thing here. Forced some pullbacks, and think we have a way in behind this major river line if we can get the trace supply as the Russians. And Riga, you can see here with some strat mode units trying to just haul ass back to build some sort of defense here, because Riga could fall very quickly if we're not careful, if the Russians can sort out their supply situation. We can take a quick look at that now, because I don't think I've covered it. So, operating on a couple of extenders here at the moment. I have a truck extender here reaching back, I believe, to that entry hex there for supply. I have a few units feeding off of, a few headquarters feeding off of there to keep general area in supply, and up here as well. From there, there's actually, we're chaining some extenders, and I have a wagon extender there as well, chaining back to there, which is supplying everything in here. So the importance of this defensive position and deepening those lines as well, because even a single tank breaking through these lines could completely threaten the entire front by hitting that hex there. Very lightly defended. So again, the importance of those crossroads, getting some infantry up, fortifying these rear positions, and sustaining a stronger attack forward, and not just having a thin line. So that is the future state for the Russian attack. I don't know if there's anything else really to cover here. Again, I haven't played for a few months, but I have a pretty good idea of what I need to do now after another turn back in it. Did just roll for the Countess event into turn 13, and the Soviets will be delayed 2 turns on getting their units, and the Germans 1. So the next game turn we'll see the German divisions rolling in, and the Russians will be on board in 2. So a real slugfest coming in here. The Germans will enter from there, and the Russians from here with that supply point. So big battle brewing there. Lots of armor, lots of more fun to come, I guess. A lot more units to join the fray here. And again, a balancing act of the Russians turn towards Riga and try and hold off with what they have there against the onslaught of German forces. I think that will be impossible. I think we're going to have to meet them with what we do gain in 2 turns as the Soviets there. So the Allies will be going first on turn 13. The Axis won the initiative roll and are allowing the Allies to go in hopes of a double turn with the yeah, I think that is what we're going to do. In hopes of a double turn later on. A Russian double turn now would be disastrous if they can figure out their supply situation, which I haven't had time to take a look at and see how I can restructure, but I'm sure there's some room for extension there even further. Actually, again, transport could be sent along these road lines and give me another extender of some sort if I have enough trucks in and around these areas here, which I certainly may at this point, and being able to use those roads will be very helpful in getting them to where they need to be. So alright, so on with turn 13.